Over the past couple of years, we have seen some of the most powerful legendaries get added to Pokemon Go. So for this video, I'm going to be doing a tier list, mainly because I really do think it's about time that we have an updated tier list for every single legendary that is currently available in Pokemon Go. And that's precisely what this video is going to be all about, and I'm really excited about it. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Let's roll the intro and go over all of the legendaries that are in Pokemon Go. Hey, what's happening everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So this is going to be a tier list video, and I totally recognize that I have not made a tier list video in quite some time, but I'm really excited about this one. It's something that I've been meaning to do for quite some time, but yeah, let's really just dive right into it. This is going to be a tier list for every single legendary in Pokemon Go. Of course, I've made this tier list in the past, but I do feel like that was more for Pokemon in general. And this is going to be for Pokemon that are specifically in Pokemon Go. And up until now, we have had so many Pokemon get released. But there's still a few that are still yet to be released in Pokemon Go. I'm not going to be including them, but I will be including one Pokemon that we are on the cusp of getting. So based on everything that I've seen regarding that Pokemon, I will be including it and I will be ranking it based on all of those things that I've heard. But things are certainly subject to change. And I do think that for every single one of these Pokemon, it's going to be mostly my opinion based on how much I've used them, how much I've actually cared to power them up, and when it comes to PvP or with raid battles, how useful they are and how many wins they've given me. That's primarily how I'm going to be sorting this. And since this tier list is going to be based on my opinion, I'm totally aware that there's going to be people in the Pokemon Go community that are going to disagree with me, but I totally welcome that. And I do hope we can have some great discussions within the comments section of this video. So yeah, if you happen to have any disagreements with my tier list, make sure you say something in the comments and maybe I can address it. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. There's going to be so many Pokemon and I do want to cover all of them. Let's start this off with Articuno. It seems like this is actually sorted in alphabetical order. I don't necessarily feel like we're gonna go through these Pokemon in alphabetical order, but maybe we will. So let's start off with Articuno, regular Articuno. Is it a really good Pokemon? I'm gonna say it's more of a D tier. It is a pretty decent Ice-type raid attacker, but it has been power crept quite tremendously. I think Mamoswine is like having two Articunos in terms of damage. Articuno is a cool Pokemon, but in terms of usefulness, I will say there's really not many places where you will find it useful. So unfortunately, Articuno, the Kanto Articuno, is going to be in the D tier, and I'm going to put the Galarian version, or the Hisuian version, pretty much in the same spot. I do think there can be cases that could be made for the Hisuian version, but I do not think this Pokemon is going to be that useful anywhere. But it's going to be a D tier rather than trash here, because for both of these Pokemon, maybe you do not have a lot of Pokemon and you need some sort of Ice-type raid attacker or something like that. So yeah, these two are going to be decent options. Well, at least the Kanto one. The Galarian, or the I keep saying Galarian. The Hisuian one, it's not an Ice-type, but if you need something, it's going to be kind of the same. It's going to be power crept by a whole bunch of other Pokemon. I think it's Psychic type. But yeah, you might end up actually finding it to be useful. Next up, we got Azelf. This one is actually, I would say, somewhat decent. It's not going to be trashed here. You might actually find use for Azelf as a raid attacker. Very rarely, especially if you're just starting off the game and you do not have Pokemon like Mewtwo or anything like that. So I'm going to put Azelf in the C tier. And maybe someday, actually, I don't think it's ever going to be top tier, but yeah. Cobalion. So Cobalion is interesting because it's kind of a niche Pokemon. It's somewhat decent when it comes to the Ultra League, at least whenever I participated in the Ultra League. I always end up using a Pokemon like Cobalion, and it ends up being somewhat useful, but everywhere else in the game, it's pretty much useless. Actually, I'm going to put in the C tier for that specific reason. It's not going to be even top tier within the Ultra League. It was at the very first time it was released, but I think it also got power crept by a bunch of other Pokemon. And always there's going to be better options when it comes to Cobalion. I could be completely wrong, but just based on my experiences, it was very useful in the beginning, and I did feel like it was a very powerful Pokemon in the Ultra League. Maybe it still is, but yeah, aside from that, I hardly ever use it anywhere else. Let's go over Cosmoem. That's going to be trash. Cosmog also trash. Both of these Pokemon are used to evolve into a powerful Pokemon, but them by themselves, obviously, they're not meant to be useful. They're kind of like the Magikarps of Legendaries, I feel. Cresselia. This one's going to be a B tier. It's a very solid Pokemon for PvP. If you were to get one with Grass Knot, and I think if you were to trade for one with Grassy Knot or whatever and have lower CP for the Great League, could be a really good Pokemon. I think the Ultra League as well. Dialga. This is going to be an A tier. Can't be said. Like, this is one of the most powerful dragons in the game. If you happen to have a Shadow version, which was recently released, that's going to be a top tier raid attacker against certain bosses. I really like the Steel and Dragon typing as well. That's going to make this Pokemon incredibly powerful and resistant to a lot of different moves. It's also a really strong Pokemon for the Master League, so if you're dabbling in PvP and you need a very powerful Pokemon specifically for the Master League, Dialga is the top choice. And then of course we got Origin Form Dialga, which recently we got a raid day for. This one is also going to be an A tier. I want to save the S tier for a very few Pokemon, which I would consider to be the absolute best of the best, but this one is kind of teetering in between. This is a very powerful Pokemon. It's definitely a bit of an upgrade over even regular Dialga. It's basically the same Pokemon, I will say. The difference is that it can come with Roar of Time, which is a very powerful move, and it's also an adventure effect. So I think because of that, it's going to be in the A tier. If there was an A plus tier, I would say it would be in there. Just keep in mind, it is a little bit better than regular Dialga. So yeah, but because of that, they're just going to be here together. Now Entei, this is going to be, I'm going to put this in the C tier. Very similar to Cobalion. I think it's a very powerful fire type in the beginning, but it has also fallen off quite a bit. It's a little bit more tanky rather than more offensive, and when it comes to raid battles, you want to focus on the attack damage. So I do think that Entei is going to be a solid C tier, and it's not necessarily going to be useful for pretty much anywhere else other than raids. But yeah, of course, there's much better fire types that are out there. Now, Eternatus. This is the Pokemon that I was specifically talking about earlier. We still do not have Eternatus, of course. At the time that I'm recording this video, this Pokemon is set to come out with the Go Max Finale event, Go Fest Max Finale event. And I think based on everything that I've seen, this is going to be the absolute best Pokemon for specifically max battles. And I think because of that, I'm going to put it in the B tier, just because it is the absolute best of the best for a specific game mode. And I think because of that, you will want to at least get yourself one. I think if you were to complete the Go Pass for specifically the Max Finale event, you're going to be able to get one. And then of course it's going to be all about farming up the candies with the max battles. That's going to be the difficult part. All right, let's go over the Giratinas. Giratina Altered Form, this is going to be a B tier. And I'm going to put both of these in the B tier. I think the B tier is going to be pretty substantial because there's going to be quite a lot of legendaries that are really good, but not necessarily great. I will say for both of these, they're going to be in the B tier. Now, if you were to have the Shadow versions, that does definitely change things up. But I will say that at the time that they came out, I will say Giratina Altered Form was one of the best for PvP. Giratina Origin Form was really good for raid battles. And now I feel like they're kind of flipped. Or at least they're both good for PvP. But yeah, I will say they're solid B tier Pokemon, and that's where they're gonna land. All right, let's go with Groudon as an A tier. Of course, what can be said about Groudon? It's a very powerful ground type, one of the best ground types. If you have a Shadow version of Groudon, that's obviously going to be one of the top Shadow Pokemon you're gonna have, regardless if you need ground type damage or anything like that. Groudon is a super powerful Pokemon, and if you were to get Precipice Blaze on this Pokemon, that's going to make it even stronger. And then speaking of Groudon, we got Primal Groudon. This is going to be our first S tier, and of course, one of the best Pokemon in the game, bar none. This is a very powerful, very strong Pokemon. It is technically kind of like a Mega Evolution. You can't bring more than one Primal Groudon to a raid. You really can't even have one at a time. You can only have one at a time, of course, because it's like a Mega Evolution. But yeah, one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game. Definitely deserving of an S tier, and it's going to be our first S tier. Heatran. This one's going to be an A tier. Now, I mentioned earlier regarding Entei that there are certain Pokemon that, I guess, power crept it. They're much more powerful fire types. Yeah, I was talking about Heatran. And if you have a Shadow Heatran, oh my goodness. Top tier fire type raid damage. So Heatran is going to be an A tier, and then Ho-Oh is also going to join it for much of the same reasons. But Ho-Oh is actually a very powerful Pokemon for the Master League. At least whenever I dabbled in the Master League, if I used Ho-Oh, I would get some solid wins. So yeah, that's going to be an A tier. Now, Kubfu is kind of an interesting case because I haven't really done a lot with Kubfu. I don't know if it's a very powerful PvP Pokemon or if it's anything that is going to be useful in certain parts of the game. I'm going to put it in the D tier simply because I'm not really informed with Kubfu. I think I could possibly make the case that it could be like a specialty cup powerful Pokemon, but yeah, D tier Pokemon for that. Alright, we got Kyogre. This is going to be very similar to Groudon, only for water types. It's going to be an A tier, top tier water type raid attacker. And I think the difference between Groudon and Kyogre that you do need to consider is that there's plenty of options when it comes to water types, and yet Kyogre can hold its own. If you get Origin Pulse Kyogre, even better. That's going to be a top tier raid attacker. Very powerful Pokemon for the Master League as well. This is definitely an A tier. And then of course, just like Groudon, Primal Kyogre is also going to be S tier. Absolute best of the best water type in the game. It's going to deal a lot of damage. Definitely worthy of an S tier. We got Kyurem. Kyurem is going to be a C tier. Somewhat decent of an ice type raid attacker. Also a dragon type raid attacker as well. Yeah, but other than that, you're never going to see regular Kyurem. It's all about the fusions. So Black Kyurem is going to be our first one. This is going to be an S tier. Very powerful Pokemon, has an adventure effect that's incredibly useful. Same with White Kyurem. Both of these are superpowers when it comes to Pokemon Go. They both got released very recently, I think at the beginning of this year. So not a lot of players may have really good ones yet, or maybe they're working on them. Yeah, both of these Pokemon are incredible. They definitely contribute to a lot of the power creep that we're seeing within Pokemon Go, where new Pokemon come out, they make old Pokemon obsolete. Black and White Kyurem definitely do that. Alright, next let's move on to Landorus. This is going to be a C tier, somewhat decent of a ground type raid attacker, but it kind of gives me the same vibes as Entei. It's not going to be the best, it's not going to be the absolute top, it's going to be mid. It's going to be decent. So C tier for that. Now the Terrian version, this is going to be actually, I'm going to put it in the B tier. So Terrian Landorus, I will say, is kind of like a mini version of Groudon. It's going to be a very powerful ground type, and in most cases it might be one of the best you can use. But it's not exactly as strong as Groudon, unfortunately. So I'm going to put it in the B tier. Still a really solid Pokemon if you have it and you do not have a Groudon. You should probably go with Terrian Landorus. Top tier ground type, regardless. Alright, we got Latios and Latias. Both of these I'm going to put in the D tier. Unfortunately, you're hardly ever going to use them. At one point, they were, I think, really good for PvP, but you don't really see them ever. It's mainly just trash Pokemon. They're essentially collector's items at this point. I actually did not include their Mega Evolutions. But if I were to have their Mega Evolutions, they would be here in the C tier. Really good Pokemon, but there's better options, especially when it comes to Mega Evolutions, one of which we'll get into later. Yeah, so that's all I have to say regarding those two. Lugia, this is going to be up in the A tier, just like with Ho-Oh. It's a really solid Pokemon when it comes to PvP, Master League, it's a very powerful Pokemon. Raid attacking, there are going to be better options when it comes to psychic types and flying types, but it's still a very powerful Pokemon. And I think in most cases, if you need specifically a flying type, Lugia might be a really great option. That is definitely something you should keep in mind. Alright, and we got Lunala. Lunala I'm going to put in the A tier. I'm going to put in the B tier. Very powerful Pokemon. very solid ghost type, I believe. Yeah, ghost and psychic. It's going to be pretty good. If you need a ghost type raid attacker, Lunala is a great option. Definitely one worthy of a raid team if you do not have really good ghost types. Actually, yeah, when it comes to ghost types, there is a particular Pokemon, which we'll talk about later, that is obviously going to be the better version. But if you do not have that Pokemon, then Lunala is going to be your best option. Alright, Mesprit, this is going to be trash, unfortunately. Sorry for all the people who have Mesprit as your Lake Trio Pokemon in your region. There is just no point to this Pokemon. It's basically just a collector's item. It's part of the whole gimmick of the Lake Trio being regionals. That's pretty much it. There's no reason for you to power up a Mesprit. There's no reason for you to go for a 100% IV except for the collector's aspect of it. It's not going to be useful all around. Alright, Mewtwo. This is going to be an S tier Pokemon. It's probably going to be the one and only S tier Pokemon that's not a Mega Evolution or a Primal Reversion or anything like that, or a Fusion. It's a very powerful Pokemon, especially the Shadow version. I will say that the Shadow version of Mewtwo is probably the best Shadow Pokemon in the game, still to this day. I think it was the first Shadow Legendary that they ever released, and yeah, there has not been any Pokemon that has come close. Shadow Mewtwo is by far the best non-Mega Pokemon in the game, in my opinion. In terms of general damage, in terms of usefulness when it comes to raids, gym battles, Team Go Rocket battles, maybe in PvP, I will say Shadow Mewtwo is incredibly powerful, but do not discount the non-Shadow version, also incredibly good. Yes, it's going to be an S tier, just simply because of that. Armored Mewtwo, this one's going to be niche. I do not think it's ever going to be useful in raids. It's way too tanky, not a lot of damage. But when it comes to PvP, could be a very unique Pokemon to use, and it can be useful. So it's going to be a C tier. It's kind of in the same veins as Entei and Kyurem. Pretty good, pretty mid, not bad, but way better options. Moltres, this is going to be an A tier. Moltres has always been probably the best out of the three bird trio. I think that has not changed over the years. It's really good. The thing I really like about Moltres is its versatility. If you need a fire type raid attacker, really good. If you need a flying type, I think it's probably the best. Yeah, Moltres is a really solid Pokemon, and if you have one, might be worth maxing out. Let's see, Hisuian Moltres. It's going to be an A tier as well. I know that might be a little controversial because it is kind of niche to specifically PvP, but when it comes to PvP, you see it everywhere. Like if you actually follow the World Championships, which is going to be happening this weekend, just pay attention to some of the teams. You're going to see a lot of Hisuian Moltres. It's a very powerful Pokemon, and I think because of that, yeah, I'll consider it an A tier Pokemon. Probably controversial because you're never going to use this Pokemon in, like, let's say raid battles, maybe in some very specific case where it could be useful, but unfortunately, yeah, it's not going to see a lot of raid play, but definitely a lot of Great League play. Great League play. All right, Necrozma. This is going to be a D tier. It's a very powerful Pokemon, don't get me wrong. Actually, I think in terms of, is it dark types or steel types? I don't know, but it could be a really useful Pokemon. But the only reason why you have Necrozma is specifically for the next two Pokemon. And let's start with them. So, Dawnwing's Necrozma. Yep, it's an S tier. Absolute best Pokemon, as strong as Mega Evolutions without being a Mega Evolution. If you have a whole bunch of these, you can use a full team of them. It's incredibly powerful. As a Ghost type or as a Psychic type, one of the best. I think actually, as a Ghost type, it is the absolute best Pokemon in the game. I think the only Pokemon that beat it are maybe Mega Gengar in terms of damage, but yeah, S tier Pokemon for sure. And same for Duskmane. I will say Duskmane is going to be slightly below Dawnwings in terms of usefulness, but in terms of steel types, not a whole lot of options in the game. So I think because of that, it's going to be in the S tier. Very powerful Pokemon for much of the same reasons as Dawnwings. Alright, Palkia. This is going to be in the A tier. I'm going to put Origin as well. Much of the same reasons as Dialga. Very powerful Pokemon. I think actually Palkia, or at least Origin Palkia, is right now considered one of the best Pokemon in the Master League. I could be wrong, I haven't really paid a lot of attention to PvP, but I do hear it is incredibly powerful, and it was something that a lot of players actually prioritized with this previous raid day. Alright, next up we got Raikou, one of my favorite legendaries in the game. I'm gonna put it in the B tier for one specific reason. Its shadow version, I believe, is the best electric type in the game. I could be wrong. Maybe there's something that came out recently that could be better. It's gonna fall behind Fusion Bolt, Black Kyurem, of course, but very powerful Pokemon. Xurkitree, I think, might be better. Obviously, I did not include the Ultra Beasts, even though many would consider them to be on par with legendaries, but Raikou is really good, specifically the Shadow version. The regular Raikou, it did fall off really hard. Used to be one of the best electric types, but of course, more electric types have come out over the years, so Raikou is going to be B tier. Rayquaza, this is going to be A tier. Very easy A tier. I almost want to teeter on it being in the S tier, but of course, there's going to be a better version of this specific Pokemon, but it's going to be a solid A tier. Very powerful Pokemon, very useful, top flying type in the game, top dragon type in the game. If they were to ever release the Shadow version, you definitely have to go for that. Very solid Pokemon. Out of the three, I will say it's probably my favorite one for obvious reasons. Now, its Mega Evolution, very easily S tier. When it comes to Mega Evolutions, it's the absolute best Mega Evolution in the game as of right now. I think the only one that's ever going to beat it is, of course, going to be Mega Mewtwo. But as of right now, until we get Mega Mewtwo, it's going to be the absolute king. It's a very powerful dragon type. If you're going up against a raid boss that is weak against dragon types, this is an absolute must-have Pokemon. You need to have this Pokemon in the raid party. It's going to deal the most damage. It's going to boost up all of the other dragon types in the raid. Very solid Pokemon. Very, really good Pokemon. I think it came out 2 years ago. Yeah, the game has not been the same ever since. All right, Regice. This is going to be, I'm going to put it in the D tier. Yeah, you're never going to use Regice. Maybe for PvP, some specialty cup, Ultra League, Master League, something like that. But of course, you're going to be going up against Pokemon like these. So, or even these. Yeah, Regice has no chance. Regidrago, this is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to put it in the C tier. Pretty big glass cannon, I will say. It's a very powerful Pokemon. But it's also a glass cannon. And it's going to be nowhere near as good as, let's say, like a Rayquaza or Mega Rayquaza, but solid C tier. Regieleki, this is actually a Pokemon that actually does more DPS than Raikou. This is an A tier. This is actually the Pokemon I was thinking of, not Xurkitree, although Xurkitree also does more damage than Raikou. But this Pokemon is, right now, I believe, the top non-Mega Evolution Electric type in the game. Non-Fusion as well, I guess. But yeah, this is going to be very solidly an A tier. If you need electric type Pokemon, if you need electric type damage, you will want to bring this Pokemon. Specifically one with the new move. I forgot what it's called, but it has a specific move that you need on it for it to become the absolute best electric type in the game. I probably should have, I just forgot what it is. I guess you can look it up after, but yeah. Regieleki, solid A tier. And then when it comes to the Regis, I will say Regigigas, even though it's considered, I guess, like the alpha of all the Regis, this is going to be trash tier. There's no use for this Pokemon. Not in PvP, not in raid battles. I guess if you were to be able to use it as a gym defender, then it could be somewhat useful some way. But yeah, trash tier Pokemon. Everyone knows it. Regigigas is useless. Regirock, kind of in the same boat as Regice. Although, I do think that this is going to be a much better pick than Regice for PvP. I think there's some teams that are actually really good with this Pokemon. Again, I don't know much about PvP as of late. So yeah, it's going to be D tier. Could be wrong. If I am, definitely correct me down below. But yeah. Registeel, this is going to be a B tier. I'm going to say something about Registeel. At many times, it was considered one of the best Pokemon for PvP. It has definitely fallen off quite a bit. I think for some reason or another, Registeel is not a Pokemon you often see anymore, but for a long time it was such a terror within the Great League, and I still think it can be useful. So I'm going to put it in the B tier. It's a pretty solid Pokemon for you to use. If you're lucky enough to have one that is good for PvP, definitely one you should definitely consider using. All right, Reshiram. This is going to be, I'm going to put it in the B tier for much of the same reasons as some of these Pokemon. Really powerful fire type. Actually, I'm going to have to put it in the A tier, actually. Mainly because when it comes to fire types, it's still one of the best you can use. It's going to be somewhat on par with Heatran. I think Heatran will edge it out in terms of raid damage, but I still think this Pokemon is incredibly good. You definitely should consider using it. But of course, there is a much more powerful version of it that exists, and that is going to be White Kyurem. But still, it's pretty good. Alright, Solgaleo. This is going to be a B tier. I think for much of the same reasons as Lunala. Very powerful Pokemon. In some cases, could be one of the best. But you won't really use it outside of some edge cases. Suicune. Unfortunately, for fans of this Pokemon, it's going to be a D tier. Always often considered the worst out of the 3 doggos. Actually, I don't think they're dogs. I think they're actually cats. Everyone calls them the legendary dogs, but out of these 3, only Entei kind of resembles a dog, but I've always thought of it as a lion. I don't know. Like, Suicune definitely looks kind of like a dog, like maybe like a greyhound, but it could also look like a cheetah, you know, with like a longer snout. I don't know, but at the very least, Raikou is definitely a cat. It's got tiger written all over it. I don't know. This could be a debate for the comments, but yeah, it's going to be a D tier regardless. Pretty trash Pokemon. Tapu Bulu. I'm going to put this in the C tier. Don't really see much cases for it. Same with Tapu Fini. At one point, Tapu Fini was a really powerful Pokemon for PvP, but that was very short-lived. Not really a good Pokemon. Actually, I'm just going to throw all the Tapus in here. Maybe there could be a case that any of these could be good. I've never seen them be any good. I know Tapu Bulu could possibly be a solid grass type, but yeah, they're gonna be C tiers in my mind, possibly even D tiers. Maybe I'm actually overranking them a little bit here. All right, Terrakion. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. So I'm gonna put it in the A tier, but I'm going to say it's kind of like Origin Form Dialga, where it could be up here. It's kind of in between. So Terrakion has always been one of my most useful Pokemon. Why do I say that? Well, in terms of fighting type, raid damage, when it comes to gym battles, when it comes to Team Go Rocket battles, Terrakion is king when it comes to fighting types. Of course, there are fighting type Mega Evolutions like Mega Lucario, always going to be better, but Terrakion is so good. It's so useful. It also has the rock typing with really powerful rock type attacks as well, so as secondary damage if you need rock types, also a really good Pokemon. Yeah, Terrakion is definitely an A tier Pokemon. Out of the Swords of Justice Pokemon, it is the absolute best. Alright, now we got Thundurus. Gonna put this in the D tier. Also, this one's gonna be, yeah, D tier. Even compared to Landorus, they're not that useful. I'm sure some people can make the case for Tarian. I'm actually gonna throw this up in the C tier. Some people can make the case that it's a decent enough electric type, but I mean, in a pool that contains Shadow Raikou and Regieleki, and even Pokemon like Xurkitree, Shadow Electivire, Shadow Magnezone, yeah, you're not going to find a lot of uses for it. And then for these, I guess D tier as well. I don't think they're going to be that useful anywhere. Flying type, they're pure flying type. That's like the unique thing about them. But if you have Pokemon like Rayquaza, no point in having these Pokemon powered up. All right, so we got, let me see. So for the 2 Urshifus, they're a little bit niche. I don't know much about them. I never evolved my Kubfu, unfortunately. Just to be safe, I'm gonna put them in the B tier because I'm assuming they're really good. Maybe you can educate me in the comments, but I haven't ever really heard much about them. And of course, I don't have them. I don't have either forms. I've been slacking when it comes to that special research. Maybe they're one of the best for max battles because that was kind of like the niche for their existence. But yeah, I'm gonna put them in the B tier. Tell me in the comments below if it should be higher or lower. But yeah, I know nothing about those Pokemon, so for me, they're going to be B tier. I apologize for the lack of information regarding some of these legendaries. There's just so many of them that I can't sit here and do in-depth research on every single one. I can only just tell you based on my experiences and everything that I've seen. Then we got Uxie, the last of the Lake Trio. Just like with Mesprit, trash tier, much of the same reasons. The only gimmick with it is, of course, it's a regional. That's pretty much it. Verzian, I'm gonna put this in the B tier, and it's mainly because really solid Pokemon for the Ultra League. Not really good for the Master League. Can't use it for the Great League, but when it comes to the Ultra League, very solid Pokemon. Xerneas, this is going to be an A tier. Probably one of the best fairy types in the game. Sure, there's going to be better fairy types, but yeah, very powerful Pokemon for raids. I've certainly used it quite a lot. And then when it comes to the Master League, I've also used it quite a lot. Very powerful Pokemon with a diverse moveset. You could definitely throw off your opponents. It's going to be a really powerful Pokemon. And Yveltal, I actually never figured out how to pronounce this Pokemon's name. It's going to be a B tier. There's going to be certain Pokemon that are going to be, you're going to find are more useful in certain situations. Maybe at one point it was one of the best dark types, but there's so many dark types that you probably will find a much better version or much better option than Yveltal. So yeah, this is going to be a B tier. Zacian, this is going to be a B tier. Yeah, B tier. Really powerful Pokemon for the Master League. Not sure if it's actually, I'm going to put in the A tier specifically because I do believe, I could be wrong, that it is top tier for the Master League, but could be really solid for raids as well. Specifically because of the fairy types. Now the Crown form, this is one we got very recently. That's going to be an S tier. Crown form Zacian, very powerful Pokemon. Really good for the max battles. Like if you're engaging in max battles and you have this Pokemon, yeah, it's going to be easy mode. It's really powerful. It's not gonna like Gigantamax form. It doesn't have a Dynamax form. It's just as is a really powerful Pokemon. Zamazenta, this is going to be an A tier. It's currently a little bit more useful than Zacian, or actually, I'm thinking of the Crown versions. I think when it comes to their non-Crown versions, both of them are kind of the same in terms of usefulness. I think Zacian is going to see a lot more use than Zamazenta, specifically because of the fighting type compared to fairy type. But yeah, these are both going to be A tier. Actually, I'm going to put in the B tier. I do believe Zacian is more useful. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to the Master League, I often see Zacian near the top of the list. I see Zamazenta kind of in the bottom of the list, but neither of these are going to be top tier for raids. They could be useful, but I think Zamazenta is not going to hold a candle to Zacian when it comes to raid battles. I think there's not as many fairy types, plenty of fighting types that are going to be much better. We talked about one earlier. But Crown form Zamazenta, this is what I was kind of talking about earlier. Currently, I believe it's better than Crown form Zacian in terms of usefulness. They both are very similar. When you do the Crown forms for both of these Pokemon, they basically get the same typings, but different moves, or I think Behemoth Slash, Behemoth Bash. But yeah, I will say Zamazenta, I believe, is slightly more useful than Zacian. But they're still both S tier, regardless. Zapdos. I'm gonna put you in the D tier. Yeah. Unfortunately for Zapdos, kind of like Suicune. Yeah, not like Suicune. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Kind of like Landorus. It could be good as an electric type. Could be. But there's always going to be much better options. I will say it's not as useless as Suicune, but it's kind of like Entei. If you have a Zapdos, great. Pretty solid as a raid attacker for electric types, but it's not going to be the best. It's going to be temporary on your team. Not worth fully maxing out. Don't waste all your XL rare candies for it. But yeah, it's going to be a C tier. But the Hisuian version, I'm going to put in the B tier. Kind of like Hisuian Moltres. Actually, I'm going to swing this back down here. You're going to see me move stuff around, of course. Both of these are pretty niche, I believe. But I Actually, I do think Moltres is just a little bit better when it comes to PvP. But yeah, I guess Galarian Zapdos, that is a Pokemon that I have seen used by some top players. It could be useful. Kind of niche, but specifically with PvP. When it comes to raid battles, yeah, you're never going to use this Pokemon. It's going to be here in the B tier. All right, down to the last two. We got Zekrom, my boy Zekrom. So this one's going to be a B tier, and even though the case can be made that it's kind of in the same boat as Reshiram when it comes to electric type damage, at one point it was considered the best, but there's going to be way more options for electric types as compared to fire types. I mean, the best fire types are pretty much all here in the A tier. But yeah, Zekrom, my boy, is unfortunately going to be a B tier, but it's pretty close. It's going to be kind of in between. Well, what's going on here? Yeah, it's going to be kind of in between. I will say it's kind of like a B+, but it just slightly falls short compared to all of these. And then finally, we got Zygarde. So on paper, this Pokemon is like one of the best Pokemon in the game in terms of stats, but I believe its moves are trash. So unfortunately, I'm going to put it in the C tier. It takes a lot of work to get yourself a complete Zygarde. Most players don't even bother because the Zygarde that they got from the special research is trash. But maybe one day you could use a bottle cap on it, get yourself a hundo, and then get it to the complete form. Yeah, but I don't know how useful it's going to be. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There you go. These are all the legendaries that are currently in Pokemon Go, minus of course Eternatus, which is we're about to get. But yeah, I do think this list is kind of solid. Maybe I could move things around a little bit to make it more accurate. I'm sure by some player standards, some of these Pokemon don't deserve to be up here. They should probably be down here, but some Pokemon down here should be up here. I'm sure some of you are going to say that in the comments. I totally welcome it. This tier list is basically my tier list. It's not necessarily the actual tier list per se. I mean, if that's what you were looking for and you feel like this could be useful, I will say, by my experiences, this is actually useful information because when it comes to Primal Groudon, all these people in the S tier, yeah, I think this is accurate right here. Maybe you can make the case for the origin forms of Palkia and Dialga, they should be up here. I think most players would put at least Dialga up here, but yeah, I think this is pretty accurate to my own personal experiences, and I've been playing this game since day one, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, definitely share your thoughts regarding my tier list down below. If you agree with it, if you disagree with it, if there's something you would change, definitely share what that is. Yeah, let's have a great discussion. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here. Don't forget the notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the contents of the channel, if you want to support everything that I do, well, I'm twisting my words, yeah, go check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. If you become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts, different things like that. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then definitely go and check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below, like I said. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you can do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms you see on the bottom of your screen right now. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. You'll have access to some exclusive content. You'll also be able to keep up with my daily life. Wow, I'm tired. That was a long video. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, all that good stuff. Make sure you look in the mirror, tell yourself you're awesome, because I think you're awesome. And yeah, I'll catch you all later.